Syracuse loses 76-74 to Virginia Tech at home. You're listening to Echoes from the Dome, Episode 2. Just when you thought it could not get any worse for the Syracuse Orange, they lose a must-win at home to Virginia Tech with the final score being 76-74. I'm here back with you guys to recap what was, again, a must-win for Syracuse as they drop a close home game to the Virginia Tech Hokies. We came on here on Monday. I predicted a Syracuse win. Obviously, I knew the circumstances. I knew that this team wasn't great in 9 o'clock tip-offs, but I thought that Syracuse would have enough to get over the edge and defeat a Virginia Tech team in what was certainly a must-win game for the Orange. They do not do that. And it is a very contrasting first and second half for the Orange. So I'm just going to sit here and recap it for you guys. And before I get into this, I do want to apologize. I've been dealing with a cold, been really stuffy in my nose and my throat the last couple days, so I do apologize. During this, I'm going to do my best to try to cover that up, but if you do hear it in my voice, I apologize. I've been real sick, and I'm also now disgusted with what I just saw in the second half from this Syracuse Orange team. Disgusted. And I will, firstly, let's try to bring some positives. It's very, very hard to bring some positives into a loss, but let's try our very best to do it. Let's talk about the first half real quick. What was a very encouraging start for Syracuse in this basketball game. Nate Kings came out. We talked about Nate Kings on the last show, how well that Nate Kings played. He had 27 points against Boston College, shot the three ball well. That's what Syracuse brought him in to do, was to shoot the three ball well. And tonight he got off to a hot start once again. And it looked like, man, Nate Kings is feeling it. He's feeling it. Made his first 2 threes, got a bucket at the rim, had a quick 8 points before we knew it. And it felt like if Nate Kings is hitting, you get a little bit of contributions from elsewhere, then Syracuse should be able to handle this Virginia Tech team. So that is my positive from the first half. Syracuse got up to a 10-point lead, 23-13 if I'm not mistaken. 23-13. I will fact check that. Yes, 23-13. Now here's the problem. Is Syracuse is rolling with the starting 5 they have on the floor. Okay? Now Syracuse did have a little foul trouble. Nathan George had 2 in the first half. J.J. Starling had 2 in the first half, so that was something that Adrian Red Autry, had to deal with. But we keep talking about the in-game substitutions for Adrian Autry and how they don't necessarily play to the game. They don't fit the way the game is flowing. It's almost like they're pre-planned substitution. He figures out when he's going to sub people in before the game even tips off. And like I said, I understood that Syracuse had foul trouble. You know, you have to sit a guy like Nathan George when he picks up 2 fouls. But this is what Adrian Autry does. He brings in what I like to call these hockey line changes, because that's what it feels like. When you're bringing in 3 or 4 guys at once, that's a hockey line change to me. Those aren't basketball substitutions. Okay? They're just not. He brings in these substitutions. Bryce Zephyr checks into the game. We haven't saw him in weeks. I'm not sure we've seen him in an ACC game this year. We see Kyan Anthony come in. Kyan Anthony was okay in the minutes he got in that first half. But these substitutions just don't make too much sense for how the game's flowing. And with that, the game stops flowing. Syracuse gives up a 7-0 run. Virginia Tech claws their way back in it. And it stays at about a 5 to 7 point game. We'll say 5 to 7 point game for the remainder of the first half. Now, I'll be honest, I thought Syracuse looked good in the first half. I thought Syracuse actually should have been up way more than 7 points in the first half. I thought their offense looked good. I thought they got some good looks. I remember at one point in that first half, they were shooting 7 of 12 from 3. If you told me that Syracuse was shooting 7 of 12 from 3 before a game, in the first half, I'd say Syracuse should be winning that game by double digits. 15, 16, 18 points, whatever it is. Because Syracuse, it's a luxury when Syracuse shoots that well as a team. Nate King's had a couple. Donnie Freeman had one or two. Tyler Betsy hit a corner three, I remember, in that first half. I think even Sadiq White on a hustle play from Donnie Freeman got Sadiq White an open corner three. And Sadiq White, that was his fourth made three of the year. We know Sadiq White is not a shooter. I'll get to Sadiq White later on in the show and how disruptive and good I thought he was today. So Syracuse takes a 37-30 lead into the half. Like I said, I thought Syracuse played well enough that it should have been more than 7. Then they start the second half. I thought it was a good opening 2 to 3 minutes in the second half. You put the ball in J.J. Starling's hands. J.J. Starling is a guy that I think for a few weeks now has needed some confidence. We know J.J. Starling is not a great shooter. We see that. We know he's not a very good three-point shooter. He's not a good jump shot shooter. But what J.J. Starling is pretty good at is getting the ball in his hand and going downhill and laying it up. We do know that J.J. Starling's very effective doing that. And J.J. Starling did that very, very well in the first 90 seconds. J.J. Starling actually should have had about 6 points in the first 90 seconds, if you want me to be honest. He had a couple layups. He missed a point-blank layup. He created a steal in the corner, jumped a good pass, made a good play. And then from there, it went downhill. Syracuse got to 45 points. Syracuse was stuck on 45 points for nearly 6 minutes. And let's be honest, during that stretch, Virginia Tech could have opened this game wide open. Wide open. You play a team that doesn't score for 5.5 minutes, and you only take a 1-point lead. I mean, when I say it, I mean it. This Virginia Tech really could have opened this game wide open, and they didn't. Then Sadiq White comes back in. Sadiq White catches a few couple oops. I thought Sadiq White was brilliant off the bench. I thought he was a spark plug, an energy guy that we needed tonight. We know Adrian Autry loves to say the quote, level 5 energy. I thought that Sadiq White presented level 5 energy. So Sadiq White's not to blame for tonight's loss. That's a guy right there that I don't blame for tonight's loss. But the offense, and I keep saying it with the offense, it's a broken record at this point, and I apologize that I have to keep talking about the offense. Because we all know how bad the offense is. The ball sticks, one guy dribbles in an ISO setting, 4 guys watch, no movement. You have one guy at the top of the key, 2 on the wings, 2 in the corner. It's very hard to watch. It's AAU-like. And that has been a knock on Adrian Autry ever since he became the head coach here. Is when people would come in to visit, they would watch a practice. There's even recruits on record saying that Syracuse felt like an AAU team. High-level recruits, too. This isn't just some 3-star that comes in and says that. These are high-level recruits that have came in and said that Syracuse has an AAU feel to it. And if you don't know what AAU is, it's a bunch of 4 and 5 stars who are one-on-one against each other, and their talent, it's talent versus talent, go make a play. And guess what? That's exactly what Syracuse's offense is someone has the ball, go make a play. Four of you, you'll get it here in a second. You stand and watch. The ball sticks. The ball doesn't move. There's not much action. Not a lot of off-ball movement. Bad shots. And you don't even have to be a great defensive team to play good defense against Syracuse. I mean, let's be honest. You don't have to be a good defensive team to play good defense against Syracuse. And that is what that stretch was, mid to late second half. Bad offense. The ball was sticking, wasn't moving. Syracuse was taking ridiculously tough shots. Just making it so hard on themselves when they don't need to. Now, I thought there was some okay action within the game. Some curls coming off screens. Nate Kings had a couple good looks coming off screens. But Nate Kings is a guy who we like to use Nate Kings as a catch-and-shoot guy, and that's fine by me. Nate Kings is a good catch-and-shoot player. The problem is Nate Kings does not need to always be a catch-and-shoot player. Nate Kings can play off the bounce. This is not a Chris Bell situation where, you have to give Chris the ball in a catch-and-shoot situation for him to get up a shot. Chris Bell was a great shooter, but if we all remember, wasn't that great off the bounce. Nate Kings is a great shooter, but is very good off the bounce. Saw that against Boston College. He got to the rim a few times with physicality, too. Got to the rim, off the bounce. Why does Nate Kings not take more shots? I don't get it. It's beyond me why Nate Kings is not touching the basketball every time down the floor. Nate Kings is your best scorer, okay? He's your best pure scorer of the basketball. He should be touching the ball every time down the floor. There's no excuse. But then, the ball sticks, goes to the point guard's hands. I've said it. I'm just repeating myself at this point. I'm sorry. Gets to the end of the game. Syracuse goes on another scoreless drought. They get on 55 points. They don't score for another 3.5, 4 minutes. No field goals. Donnie Freeman eventually steps up to the line, down 9, makes a couple free throws, and then this is when it gets interesting. Now, if Syracuse made this look a lot more competitive than it actually was. And Syracuse had, Donnie Freeman got fouled at the 2:11 mark in the second half. Syracuse had 55 points. If you remember the halftime score I said, Syracuse had 37 points. So Syracuse scored 18 points in nearly 18 minutes. I'm sorry, doesn't take a rocket scientist, doesn't take a basketball genius to see that that's not good offense. So Syracuse threw some really bad turnovers by Virginia Tech. Some quick buckets that Virginia Tech just allowed Syracuse to get because they didn't want to foul. They didn't want to give up a three-pointer. So Syracuse got to 74 points. They got 19 points in 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Very, very misleading if you didn't watch this game. Because the offense in the second half was not good enough. Now, we know the situation. Virginia Tech had a couple of really bad turnovers that kept Syracuse in it. Missed some free throws. But this was arguably the play of the game. They forced another turnover. Goes out of bounds. Abdallas turns it over. Syracuse calls a timeout. And they actually draw up what I thought, to be honest, was a decent play for Nate Kings, who gets a decent look. rims out. Essentially, you would think the game's over at that point. Virginia Tech goes down, they get fouled, make 1 of 3 free throws, 4-point game, you think it's over. It's not. J.J. Starling gets the ball, comes down, makes a layup, 2-point game. Syracuse sets up a press. They don't get the steal, automatic or immediate foul. Virginia Tech steps up, makes the first one. But listen to this. Misses the second one. 3 Syracuse guys on the line. 3. Virginia Tech rebounds the basketball over 3 of Syracuse players. Over 3 of our guys, Virginia Tech gets the rebound. Toby Lawau goes over 3 of our guys that was on the free throw line getting a rebound. I don't think the coaching has been very good this season, but at that point, you cannot blame coaching. That is poor execution from everybody on the court, especially the 3 guys that were down there rebounding. Terrible to have one guy just out-muscle 3 individuals for a basketball. It's pathetic. And that essentially ended the game. Toby Lawau stepped up, made 2 free throws. Nate George made a 3-pointer as time expired. Virginia Tech wins a 2-point game that really was not that close in the second half to me. Virginia Tech outscores Syracuse by 9. Should have been way more than that. And Syracuse falls to 12-7 overall and 3-3 in ACC play. That's my recap. And I can keep going on. I can keep saying the same thing over. The coaching's not good. But you guys have heard that before. The coaching has not been very good, and I do think Red Autry will be fired at the end of this season. But some of the turnovers, oh my gosh. The turnovers by guys that you would expect to have the knowledge, the experience, the basketball IQ to make these plays. Pathetic. And I said it. I critiqued the offense. I ranted. I've ranted about the offense at this point. It's not good. It is AAU-style basketball that Red Autry is running on the offensive end of the floor. But at the end of the day, you can only help yourself out so much. And Syracuse did not help themselves out. They beat themselves in a game that Virginia Tech tried their hardest to give to them. They beat themselves. Because there is no reason that one guy should be getting a rebound over 2 or 3 guys. Shouldn't be happening. It's a mismatch. It's a low percentage play for Virginia Tech. But they get favored. And they win the rebound. They win the basketball game. Now, I'm going to go over some box score numbers. Because truly, I thought some people played tonight that just weren't very good. Start out Donnie Freeman. If you know me personally, you know how much I love Donnie Freeman as a basketball player. I'm a huge Donnie Freeman guy. I've said it. I think this dude, when he's at his best, is a lottery pick in this year's NBA draft. Yes, I said it. I know who's in it. I know who's in the draft. I think Donnie Freeman, when he is at his best, when he's shooting the ball well, when he's attacking the basket, when he's cooking in the one-on-one isolation in the mid-range, when he's rebounding the basketball, blocking shots, that Donnie Freeman is a lottery pick in this year's NBA draft. I believe that. I've said it. Just not good enough tonight, though. Started out well, hit a couple threes. 3 for 14 from the field. Only 10 points. Just not good enough. Nathan George, just disappointed. Nathan George, only 1 turnover tonight. But 6 points, 2 for 4 from the field. One of those was that very late three, so technically really only 3 points. 3 assists. I know he had the foul trouble. He only played 23 minutes, but disappointing. Nate Kings, who had a really good start, finished 3 for 8, 11 points. J.J. Starling, who I thought was okay. Thought he had a really good start to the second half, as I said. 12 points, 5 for 11. These are guys in the starting lineup. These are guys that I expect to be contributing at a high level every single basketball game. And if I had to give an MVP tonight, I would give it to Sadiq White. 15 minutes, 11 points in 15 minutes. I thought Sadiq White was an energy guy. He came in, created chaos, had some really good plays at the rim, some good lobs to him. Sadiq White provided a spark off the bench that Syracuse desperately needed. And it's very unfortunate that when Syracuse gets that spark, that they don't get enough from their starting five. Now, let's move away from tonight's game. That's my recap. That's my opinion on it. If you watched the game, enough said. You understand where I'm coming from. Not ending the show here, though. Been on here for a little over 20 minutes. Not ending the show there. Because I want to have an outlook at the rest of this season. And I want to be as realistic as possible with this team. Season is now over. I said it on Monday when I recorded the first show that it wasn't over yet because Syracuse had these ifs and buts. These ifs and buts are just not going to be enough for Syracuse anymore. Now, a quad 2 loss, which was tonight, Virginia Tech was a quad 2 loss. It's not terrible, I guess. It's not detrimental, but it really is detrimental because this is a game that Syracuse had to win. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is detrimental because Syracuse had to win this basketball game. If they won this basketball game, it would have done probably very little to their resume. But you would much rather win a quad 2 game than you would lose it. Because a quad 2 game, it's not a terrific win, but it's a solid one. Syracuse needed to start racking up some solid wins so they could go get a quad 1. Go get multiple quad 1s. Get a handful of quad 1s, actually. I'm not gonna preview Miami. If Syracuse won tonight, I would have been happy to preview Miami. I'm losing hope. I've lost hope, to be honest. I've lost hope in what can be this season. And it really stinks because I had very high expectations. And maybe that's my fault. And I can be the first one to say that that's my fault. That I shouldn't have had the expectations that I had with this team. But I continue to look at the roster, continue to look at the players that was built on this basketball team. And I say to myself over and over again, oh my goodness, how is this not a bubble team at the minimum? At the minimum, how is this not a bubble basketball team? Like I said, Syracuse will be back at home against Miami. It's the whiteout game, blizzard game, I believe Otto's Army calls it. It's fun. Be fun for the students. Be a lot more fun if this team was playing winning basketball and beating teams that they should be beating. And I got bad news. Is if you think this is bad right now, this could get very ugly quick. Because Syracuse sits at 3-3 in conference play. The bad news is, this was Syracuse's easiest stretch to ACC play. Syracuse should be 5-1, maybe even 6-0 right now, because I think they left some plays on the table against Clemson. Syracuse could be 6-0 right now. They should be 6-0 right now. Let me say that. This was the easiest stretch of basketball that Syracuse will play in conference play. Miami at home, another winnable game. Not going to predict a win, not going to predict a loss. We're just going to see how it plays out. Miami's coming off a very devastating loss to Florida State last night. But you still have to go to NC State, loss. At North Carolina, loss. At Virginia, loss. Cal and SMU come to the Dome, probably split those games. At Duke, I don't need to say it. Duke's one of the best basketball teams in the country. At North Carolina at home, maybe. Maybe put a asterisk beside it, I don't know. At Wake Forest, I'll be at that one. Trying my hardest to get up for that one. Maybe a win. At Louisville, loss. Pitt at home should be a win. I didn't name many more wins in that schedule. That's why I say this, and I'll say it again, that this could be a lot worse. If you think it's bad right now, it could be a lot worse by the time we get to mid-February. And we're playing Duke on a big Monday at a sold-out Cameron Indoor Stadium. If you think it's bad now, losing to Virginia to take it home, could get even worse for this Syracuse basketball team. I'm not going to go into detail about Red Autry. Y'all have heard what I've had to say about the guy. I think he's a great guy, but I don't think he should be the head basketball coach at Syracuse University next year. And maybe I will as the season gets later on. I'll start to talk about some candidates that I like. I have a very good one in mind. I'm not going to say his name yet because out of respect for Red Autry, he's still our head basketball coach. Out of respect for this basketball team, Red Autry is still the basketball coach here at Syracuse. But there is definitely some guys that I would like for AD John Wildhack to get on the phone with and discuss something with. I respect Adrian Autry as a guy, as a legend at Syracuse University, but the time is ending. And that's where I'll leave it at. We're approaching 30 minutes here on the second ever episode of Echoes from the Dome. I appreciate you guys for listening in. We're going to start to wrap it up here. Like I said, Syracuse will be back at home Saturday against Miami, 2 o'clock tip-off at the Dome. It's a blizzard game for the students. I'm assuming the fans can get involved there too. So, I'll never stop supporting this team. I'll never tell people to stop supporting this team. But for people that don't show up to the games, that say it's hard to watch Syracuse, I can't fault them for that. Because that's where we've gotten at. There's such a legendary basketball program, people can't even bear to watch it anymore. 5 straight tournament misses coming up for the Orange. We can keep having these ifs and buts. You can't beat Boston College. You can't beat Virginia Tech at home. You're not going to the NCAA tournament. No shot at either of those teams, especially Virginia Tech, because Virginia Tech's a really good basketball team, who again could be 7-0 in conference play. They've had 3 heartbreaking losses. But Virginia Tech's a team that you have to beat if you want to go to the NCAA tournament. Because guess what? The net ranking doesn't care how many points you've lost by. They see a loss, it's going to hurt you. Especially if that loss is anything below a quad 1. Now, I haven't looked at the net ranking for Miami. I'm assuming this will be a quad 2 win, or a quad 2 game, But 2 o'clock tip-off ACC Network Saturday from the JMA Wireless Dome. If you want to get out, go support your Orange and see maybe if they can rally and put together a win before the gauntlet of conference play begins. Because it's coming, folks. And this February is going to be absolutely brutal. If you think it's bad right now, just wait until you're playing North Carolina, Virginia, Duke, Louisville in the same month. I'm going to wrap it up here. Like I said, I appreciate you guys for listening in. It's late. I'm recording this late. Obviously, that was a 9 o'clock tip-off. We're a little past midnight here, so we'll call this Echoes from the Dome After Dark. Anytime we're recording past 11 o'clock, we'll call it After Dark here on Echoes from the Dome. Again, I appreciate you guys listening in. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and promote this. Get your friends involved. See if your friends want to give it a listen. Obviously, this is my first time ever leading a podcast, so I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm doing everything better every day to improve myself. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect from the beginning, but I do really appreciate the support for those who listen. So if you don't care, share it to get people involved, subscribe, like it, and I'm going to try to keep getting better for you guys. I'm going to try to stay consistent, even no matter how bad this season turns out getting. I'm going to still bring content. I'm going to still bring my opinions, and maybe you can call it a rant tonight. I tend to get pretty riled up. If you know me, how passionate I am about Syracuse basketball, you know how passionate and riled up I can get, especially my close friends. So maybe you can call that a rant, maybe not tonight. But like I said, I appreciate everyone for listening in. Hit the like and subscribe button, and we will be back sometime. Maybe directly after the Miami game, depending the mood I'm in. But there will for sure be a show, we'll say by Monday, just to play it safe. We'll say by Monday we'll have a show recapping Miami, and definitely before the Orange head to NC State on Tuesday, January 27th. Like I said, thank you guys for tuning in on the second episode of Echoes from the Dome After Dark here at midnight. Thank you, guys.